Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Cronin Challenge2Change. This is where we ask the hard questions, broaden our perspectives, gain better knowledge, and have a better understanding of someone living in someone else's shoes. That's the only way we can truly understand what it's like to be somebody else, gain a new perspective, broaden our horizons. And with knowledge comes power, with knowledge comes empowerment, and with knowledge comes a better understanding. And what more can we ask of today and where we're living and the times we're living in? Society is such that people are way too judgmental. People don't have enough empathy. People don't have enough sympathy. And only in times like this can we bring ourselves together as a community through knowledge and understanding and education. So without further ado, I am so proud and honored to have so many important members of our community here. We have two long-standing businesses in Detroit. We have Sourcebooks Detroit and we have Hot Sam's Clothier. And I can't be more proud to have the owners of both of those business entities here. And we have two generations of owners. We have the seniors and we have the juniors. For starters, we have both Tony STOVALL and Lauren coming with you live today from Hot Sam's Clothier, and I'm going to be bringing them with you now to talk a little bit about Detroit, what it's like to have a business in Detroit, and just all the challenges that they've overcome in their lifetime. And we are just so honored and proud to have them. Welcome today, guys. How are you?
Welcome. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Happy to be here.
Tony and Lauren, it's such an honor to have you. Now, Tony, just if you can share with our viewers just a little bit about your business and what it is that you do.
I am honored to talk to you about the oldest men's clothing store in downtown Detroit, soon celebrating 100 years in business. We are a clothing store that has a feel of like a Cheers. Everybody knows your name. We have relationships with all our customers. We're doing first, second, and third generation customers. We're building relationships with people. We're part of the community. So we can dress you from head to toe here at Hot Sam's since 1921, soon to be 2021, 100 years.
That's amazing. Congratulations on your anniversary of 100 years. And joining you today is your beautiful daughter, Lauren, who's also in the business with you. Hi, Lauren.
Hi. How are you?
I'm great. Good. Can you talk a little bit about your role in the business?
Yeah, my role in the business is, we don't even know. I don't even know what my title is, but I do a little bit. I definitely am the legacy of the business. But I think I have helped to shift Hot Sam's to, let me see, for lack of a better word, be up to date. Like, just because we're the oldest men's clothing store, we don't want to look like the oldest men's clothing store. So I literally started with like a store makeover. And we did some remodeling in the store. And this was maybe a few years back. And even bringing, more recently, new technology to the store, bringing us to be engaged in social media. But I am kind of like and my father is too, in a sense, but like the liaison from the business to the community, even to partnering with other businesses. I kind of am the liaison to facilitate that. So I say I'm the business lead. I say I'm the legacy. I say I'm the marketing. So a combination of all those things.
Well, I love that. And I'm going to dig deeper into not only your business, but your views, your experiences, the challenges that both of you have faced. And before I do that, though, I'm going to bring our other guests who I'm also so pleased and honored to join. They are a mother and daughter duo. Again, a beautiful business, an amazing business, a long-standing business in Detroit, Janet and Allison Turner Jones. And they have Sourcebooks Detroit. I'm so pleased and honored to bring them with you today to talk about their challenges, their businesses, and welcome. How are you both today?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice, Hot Sam.
Hi, Source Bookstore.
So can you please talk to us a little bit, just briefly, from a 30,000, square foot view? Just talk a little bit about how you decided, Mom Turner, to open up a bookstore.
Okay, my name is Janet Webster
Oh,
Jones.
I'm sorry. My daughter made an intern.
Right. Well, I didn't decide. It was offered, an opportunity was offered, and I always say that the business grew because of courage and opportunity. And so I was holding a class after I'd returned from a trip to study the history of ancient Egypt. And people wanted to know where I got all these books and what I was talking about, and could I bring some to the bazaar at the church for the holiday time? And they said, "We'll just buy the books, and that will be that." Well, that was the beginning of my work as a vendor, going to where people were not a pop-up. Pop-up is something else that was made up just recently. But I was a vendor going to where people had fairs and bazaars and exhibits and so on, where we vendors would show up with our merchandise, and I would sell books across the table. And then in 2002, after I'd retired from Detroit Public Schools, I had an opportunity to join 3 other women-owned businesses and shared a space that we named the Spiral Collective on the corner of Cass and Willis in Midtown Detroit. So I was there for 10.5 years, and then the opportunity again came from a new building, the Auburn building that was built right across the street, and they wanted experienced merchants to move in. So I said, I can do that. So I moved over here, and here we've been for the last 7.5 years.
That's fantastic.
So 30 years in the book selling business
In Detroit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
30 years. And now you're with your mom. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with the bookstore, Allison?
Oh my goodness. Reading a lot of books, hand selling books, where our niche is nonfiction. So we focus a lot on history and culture, health and well-being, books buying about women and local interests. So just kind of working together to keep everything together, especially at this time. We have had to transfer some of our sales to online, which is not what we did before. So just trying to survive through the pandemic, really.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that, I know for sure. And I'm just so pleased and honored that just 2 mainstays of Detroit and the community and the culture are with us here today. I mean, it's such a testament to both of you, the seniors starting the business, and now with the next generation of your children. It truly is amazing. And I know that you have both, all 4 of you, really lived through not only this pandemic. Obviously, it's been a challenge for all businesses, but up till that, I know Tony and I know, Janet, you've both lived through some trying times in your lives, and trying not just with respect to, the economy, but I mean, the culture, the race problems, growing up as young African-American people in a culture, and then having your own business, owning a business. Tony, you and I talked a little bit about that yesterday. It just takes so much hard work, determination, perseverance, and just sheer grit. But yet to add on the element of your race, that is such a challenge in and of itself. So Tony, first I'd like to ask you, as a young man starting this business, how did you do it?
Well, first I want you to feel very comfortable to say it's okay to say Black. Black Lives Matter.
Yes, absolutely.
Both the companies that you're interviewing are Black owned, and we're proud of that. And seriously, that's where the conversation starts. We want you to feel comfortable. It's okay that Black Lives Matter. It does not mean your life or anyone else's matters. Life doesn't, but it does seem to. Our lives do not matter. And we've been through this struggle since I was a child. And I'm sure, as my comrade can tell you, as a child, we've always known that we had to smile. We had to talk to white folks a certain way, act a certain way to survive in a white world. And it's okay to say the truth. And that's what I love about her bookstore. She sells books that tell the truth. My family, my daughters, my sister, my brother-in-law, all of us participate and go to her stores and sit there as she teaches us with different artists there to teach us about who we are. Because when you know who you are not afraid of absolutely nothing. When you know who you are, you know there are going to be challenges, black, white, or purple. But we also know, as being black people, we were taught to be twice as good, to just be equal. We work twice as hard, still won't be equal, but we have the compassion, the passion to do what we do and continue. And quitting is not an option for black people. It's always been hard. So that's not an excuse for us. It may be an excuse for others, but all this is another challenge for us to ride like we always do.
So I just want to add that please, business is not unusual for black people. We've been in business at the very beginning. Even during enslavement times, there were places in the country, in the plantations, where black people were allowed to take their leftover growth, things that they grew, and take them to market to sell. That's particularly true in South Carolina, and Florida and Georgia too. So business is not unusual for us. I grew up on the west side of Detroit, and on the west side of Detroit, which is now Zone 8, which is regarded as a no place now, we had businesses all up and down our streets that were owned and operated by black people. And everything we needed was really inside of our community. That was the time of de facto segregation in Detroit. So I just have to say that don't think that this is new. we are standing on the shoulders of Hot Sam's and Source Book Publishers, standing on the shoulders of so many people who came before us and who fed the community and were embedded in the community and worked for the community.
Yeah. And I want to add this too. It's nice to hear her. She said she's off the west side. I'm off the east side of Detroit, which was to see the rough side of town. And when I was growing up, the west side was paradise. So what we're both telling you collectively, it's nothing new that it's a challenge for us to be in business. And we cannot sell out like some of our people before. They sold out for a couple of dollars and they didn't have the legacy that we are trying to create between my daughter and her daughter, that you too can be an entrepreneur. You too can govern yourself and not let someone else govern you.
Well, that's great. I love that. And, Tony, I love that you mentioned, the word black is okay to say. I think so many people are so afraid. And I'm glad that you called me out on that. I wanted you to be the one to tell me, because that's what I want our viewers to know. I am wanting to educate everybody and talk about what's okay to say and what's not okay to say, and what's okay to ask and what's not. It's in education, it's in learning, it's in empowering of people that we can bring our community together. We all bleed the same color blood. We're all one under, I believe in God. And so I believe, and I say, we are all one under God and we are all equal. And so I understand the Black Lives Matter movement, but so many people don't. So many people say, well, our life matters too. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that you said that, Tony, because what's very important is that you're not undermining that. You're not undermining anyone else. You're just saying that our lives matter because for so many years they didn't. And right. I get that, but I think that's what's been lost. And I'm glad that you, Janet, spoke to the fact that this has been meaning this race relations, black, white, whatever, has been around for as long as you remember being in business. And it's a reality. And I think that only through these serious, open discussions can we get beyond it and have a better understanding of somebody else. And, in speaking to that, as both you companies are mainstays of Detroit, Black-owned businesses.
There you go.
You have seen so much in your lifetime, generations now, and now you have a younger generation taking over. What is the largest difference that you see, both Tony and Janet, versus what your daughter's generation may be seeing relative to race relations, the Black and the white culture specifically?
Ms. Janet?
Well, I really think you have to ask them. And not only that, all of us are standing on shoulders of many other people along the way. The race issue is a fundamental issue of the United States of America, beginning in 1619 and prior to that. We have a book in the store called Africa in Florida from 1413 and all that.
Right.
So we have to we don't want to get over or get beyond or get through. We want to embrace all of this. Tony's not the only Black businessman in Detroit. We have a funeral home that's also 100 years old, don't we, Tony?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Cole's 100 plus.
Right,
Dr. Swanson, we just lost. Was one of my mentors. He might have had 100 years, but he had 100 years of experience. And I have learned so much. And what I want to share with you, young lady, that I really like about your show, you have to have the honest discussion.
Yes.
I would be less than who I am if I wasn't truthful with you. The issue is it's okay to call me Black, but you know it's not okay to call me the N-word. And I think communication is the key to success. We got to talk to each other. We're 99.9% almost the same. Right is still right. Wrong is still wrong. Black, white, or indifference. That's what we're trying to. That's what we live on. We just want to be like they've been saying here lately. Just get your knee off my neck. Let me breathe. Get your knee off my neck so I can grow. Get your knee off my neck so I can stay in business. Get your knee off my neck so I can get the same finance. Get your knee off my neck when I call the police, they're going to help me, not hurt me. Get your knee off my neck and treat us all equal. That's it.
Well, Tony, I think it's important that people know that just because you are Black doesn't mean you're lesser than. I mean,
it doesn't mean I'm a criminal.
You're better than, or
it
you're because you work harder.
Counselor, it doesn't mean I'm a criminal. And as you can see, as we look on this screen, I'm the darkest one there. Because I'm the darkest one does not make the worst person. Because you the whitest doesn't make you the best person. We're all human beings. Treat me the same. That's all. But now here's what I'm telling you is I have no hatred, zero. And I guarantee this family has no hatred to those that hated us.
Yeah.
We believe in equal opportunity. Let me tell you my story about slavery. It was an opportunity for you to see who we are. A lesser people would have killed you. They would have fed you poison and destroyed you. Black people, because we're compassionate, loving. Because we're compassionate, we're loving. We were innovative. We're the ones when you call us lazy. You were on the porch, and we were in the fields. So how can you tell me I'm lazy? We are living by nothing but one thing: truth. Truth. Tell my story. History is you right. His story. Now, if we go to the source, big store, bookstore, we will get the story, the truth of our history. You tell your history.
Well, I think all history is significant and important. You know, and I understand that there are some people who, and I think this is an important question, and I'll ask the hard questions because so many people want to know. And I'm prefacing all this because I'm not sharing with you my beliefs. I'm sharing with you the hard questions that so many people ask. The history in America, you know, after Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, and I know it took some time before it was effectuated. And that's what Juneteenth is all about. Who would like to talk about Juneteenth with our viewers right now?
Allison.
Allison.
Oh, okay. Well, Juneteenth is, I just want to say that we had a lot of emancipation jubilees from the first notice to the last notice. And so it happens that our family has roots in Georgia. And so when we tell the story of knowing about the emancipation, it's when Sherman's March, when he came through Georgia. So that's how we learned it. But if we were in Texas, their knowing about emancipation came 2.5 years after the document was presented. Now, the document's a little squirrely, right? It was a war document, and it was sort of like a confiscation act to get Africans that were enslaved to join the Union Army or So that was sort of like an idea of it. But it happened that the Union soldiers got to Galveston, Texas, on
June 19th.
On June 19th. Well, he did the proclamation on the balcony on June 19th.
Yeah.
And so the proclamation was sort of like he informed everybody of the proclamation that Lincoln said, and that they would have absolute equal rights,
Right.
and where they had to change the status from master and slave to employer and hired labor. And Texas was a Confederate state, so you have to sort of be pushed to glory in a lot of ways, but that didn't come until 2.5 years after it was presented. And so, of course, when people got that news, because the general, what is his name? Major General Gordon Granger, he saw everybody and he was like, this shouldn't be so. And so that's why he did that. He had no idea that they weren't complying.
Well, and I think that's significant because a lot of people don't even know what Juneteenth is. It was June 19th, 1865 in Galveston, Texas. That's the emancipation of slaves in Texas. I'm sorry?
It was not anything that was in Detroit. We had emancipation celebration in Windsor.
Right.
How about you? Yeah. So it was different in different places. And here recently, with all of the communication going on, this idea of Juneteenth kind of has taken off, but it wasn't something that was known to everybody for a long time. And it wasn't the only, as Allison said, the only emancipation jubilee.
Well, I have a question to ask of all of you, really. There's a lot of talk now about doing away with anything that our history used to, revere relative to the Confederate, flag or states or anything like that. And, there's been a lot of talk about doing away with really all of that part of our history. How do you feel about that?
Well, I need to say this, that there are many sides to all stories. First of all, most of the monuments and the flag did not come into being until the early 1900s.
Until the what time?
The early 1900s. The Confederate flag didn't get made, I don't think, until about 1920. I'm not sure about that. But these are some recent things, especially some of the monuments. The Robert E. Lee monument and many others were put up in the 20s when they were nailing down Jim Crow to make sure everybody knew that you were not welcome here and you were not supposed to do anything but what we say. That was not the Civil War. That was way into the Jim Crow era. So some of that needs to go. And I've heard several people speaking. One person said, we need to put it into a plastic case and put writing all around it and give those things context so everybody can understand where they came from, why they got erected, and what they need to do about it. But they certainly do not need to be in public spaces where people's spaces are abused every time you do these kinds of things. I think
yeah, I'm sorry. Were you going to say something?
No, it's a little hard for me to hear you, but I agree, and I think that's why I'm asking these hard questions, because people don't know. They don't have an understanding of when and where these monuments were first erected or brought up. And I think you raise a very, very good point. Similar, I even after years and years of this supposed emancipation, I would like to talk about one of the most, if not the most, tragic massacre involving the Black people, and that was of the Tulsa Race Massacre in 1921. And I know, Tony, you know a little bit about that, and you probably do too, Allison. But
both Hot Slams and the Tulsa riots are going to be 100. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I am working on something that I shouldn't even probably share. But yes, 1921, the Black Wall Street, which was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're hopefully going to do something in recognition of that for our 100th celebration. So maybe actually Source Bookstore will be contacting you about that. It's a vision that I have. I want to go back to and I like that, Sabrina, you said the so-called emancipation, because what I think is interesting is the emancipation. Why, if we are emancipated, if we are truly free, why is it that we're still here with these conversations today in 2020? And so I think what is really interesting to me is, and in a manner to have these tough conversations, is that I think we have to understand the implicit bias, because just because you have a document that says we are free, there are still some implicit biases that come out explicitly because of how people view Black people. They used to view us as animals. And so if that is how you thought of us, if that is how you viewed us, to treat us as animals, we weren't even considered fully human. There was a document that said we were 3/5 of a human being. And an emancipation paper does not take that away from your mind. It doesn't take that away from how you think about us. It doesn't take that away from how you view us. And so we are still here today because of implicit biases of white people and how they view us, and so how they should treat us. They want to control us because we are still kind of looked at as not fully human, because that's what they were taught. And so there is also a sort of unlearning that has to take place to even understand that we are human.
Do you think the majority of white people still believe that today?
I think there are implicit biases. I think there are implicit biases that come up at times. And I don't even think it's intentional most of the time. I don't think it's intentional most of the time. There are some that are intentional. But I think it is inherently ingrained because you all were taught that. And when I say you all, I'm not obviously speaking directly to you, Sabrina, but I am talking about our white brothers and sisters, that they were taught to think of us in such a way, that they were taught to view us in such a way. And they don't fully understand our struggle. They don't fully understand us. Number one, we're just being awakened. A lot of people are just being awakened to this. And to Source Bookstore's point, we've been used to this. We've had to adapt. A lot of you all are just waking up to this.
But
how do you?
Let me say
something. Sure.
To also support what she's saying, because I have 3 lovely daughters, all by my wife, of 40 years of matrimony.
That's great.
They played and enjoyed life with everybody when they were up to about 12 or 13. Yeah. All of a sudden, race came in when they got 13 or 14. Separation here, separation there. And what I'm going to show you an example of what we just went through with Floyd George. I'm going to give you the teaching moment there. Teaching moment. This was their superior officer teaching them how to handle a Black man. They had worked for 4 days, 3 days. This is what is being taught. I've never taught my children to hate anyone. It's to love each other. Treat people the way they treat you. They were taught from their superior officer, when you get a Black man handcuffed, can't breathe, this is how you treat them. Versus a white person you stop for a $20 bill. Me and the owner of Source Bookstore have false bills before. I've never called the police on no one. There's an ink pen, you draw behind that line, it says bad bill, done deal. That's it. You don't call the police on a $20 bill that's supposed to be bogus and then arrest him, handcuff him, and kill him. And it was being taught by the 19-year-old veteran police officer to the one was 3 days, one was 4 days. So therefore, they think this is how you treat Black people.
You have to handle them.
Less than human. And I'm only saying these conversations I'm fine with, because I'm telling you the truth. I want white America, the majority of that runs everything, to understand Black people are compassionate, loving,
human,
giving. When we were enslaved, we did not poison. We were innovative. We made it easier to work because we had to do the work. And white America won all the prizes. You got free labor for 400 years on these dates. And you want to talk about these statues we've made. If you were built on a lie, Christopher Columbus did not discover America. So that's a lie. So the whole premise,
That is being taught.
someone was already here. So how can you sit and think all the statues probably should be torn down? But me, myself, I think some should remain. So you'll know whence you came from. You came from inhumanity to humanity. You came from beating the people, slaving the people, said you discovered the country, and you learned to be more understanding in the moments we're doing right now. Black Lives Matter.
So I have a question of all of you then. I know a lot of whites and, blacks and other races are all coming together to help with the peaceful protests in Black Lives Matter. I also understand that, for years, the white population many have been very sympathetic, empathetic. And of course, a lot of whites will never understand. We've never been in your shoes. I mean, we'll try to understand, but we've never walked we can't. We're not you. We're not, but, you have your ancestors to, learn a lot of this from. And I know as we, as a nation, try to come together, what more do you want to see? What more can be done?
Well, let me just go here for a minute. There's a lot of pain and anguish and sorrow and suffering. And all of us, all human beings, and that's what we are, have experienced suffering. Now, I'm going to some metaphysical thinking here because we carry those kinds of books too. But
I love that.
You know what suffering is. You know what suffering is. And
No
if you know that the Holocaust, the Japanese, the Germans in the internment camps here in the
Americans,
you know what suffering is. It may not be the same suffering that looks like what's on our faces, but suffering is suffering. And so we need to get that human experience. Now, what more should be done? What would you do? What do you think you can do in your family? I don't want to say that. In the families, in the communities, in the society in which you live, what can you do? Some people now are saying what we need to do is hire more people of color and Black Americans in places where they have not been before. It doesn't mean that they are not qualified. There are plenty of qualified people. We have a book in the store by a young woman who is a material engineer who's written a book called Alchemy of Us, in which her work is so outstanding I can hardly breathe when I talk about it. She talks about how we create things and then the things recreate us. Example, telephone, the car, electricity, housing, all of that affects us as an invention, but it affects how we become more human or less human, if you want to say. The internet is another example. The other thing I want to say is that we are living in this time because there was hope in the past.
Yes.
We have all lived well in spite of this. I was on the west side, you were on the east side, Hot Sam. But people lived well, and we are still learning to live well. And that is in spite of and because of the experiences that we have had. Yeah. So don't think that this time period now is the way it is, always was. For the most part, we didn't even think about white people where I live.
Thank you.
That's something else.
Thank you.
We thought about our neighbors. We thought about we were part of the community. And I think it's the community that we're talking about. I'm sure that in other ethnic groups, community is a fundamental happening. I know that's true with Spanish-speaking people in Southwestern Chile. I know that's true of the Bangladeshi people over in here. And people gather together in their groups because they're comfortable there.
Right.
They cannot be made there. That's segregation. So I think we have to be very careful about how we look at and define those experiences.
Yeah, and what from here to equality looks like.
Yes.
I'm going to answer your question though, and it's been all over the media. Just get your knee off our necks. Just treat us equal. That's really.
It's symbolic.
I have a question of all of you that has been actually posed from one of our viewers. There is a lot of disparate views and treatment, even among the Black community. Yep. And I know that there are a lot of conservative Blacks who are highly scrutinized because they are getting criticized by not thinking that they know what it's like to be Black. And there's a documentary called Uncle Tom, exploring what it's like to be a minority within a minority group, coming out this Friday. So, which I think was the 15th. So I'm very curious to see how both of you, well, all four of you, feel that way, because sometimes, I get that question a lot. There's a lot of conservative views, and there are more liberal views in all races and all, nationalities and all religions. How does the Black community, why is that so disparate? Why is that such an issue within the Black community?
I think it's not such an issue. We use these racist ideas to define Black people, but not necessarily other people.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again, Allison?
These are racist ideas that say Black people all think one way. That's not true.
Thank you.
It's not been true. We have a variety in our thinking as anybody and anywhere else. And we have to be careful that all of our thinking is not driven to this kind of a topic all the time. We think about many more things than this.
Well, I love that. No, I love that. And that's my response back when people ask me these, because
it's a racist thought that they think that Black people should think a certain way to make them feel more comfortable.
I agree. I think that's a great response, Janet. Thank you for saying that. And I think it's important because, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Socialist, whatever, we all have different views. And just because you're Black doesn't mean you all espouse the same views. And I think that's it. You answered that beautifully. Beautiful.
And we can change our minds.
What?
We can change our minds.
We can change our minds.
Can I ask? Let me give you another though. We don't say anything about white on white crime. Most of the time, crime is committed by those that you associate yourselves with. But we make a big thing on black crime. All it means is we kill someone that we may associate with that looks like us. But we're not nowhere when you do a drive-by, drop a bomb on the country. That's white folks doing that. So I'm trying to figure out how do we perceive as the bad guys in almost every aspect. It's like, how come we don't think the same? How come we don't look the same? How come we all don't walk the same? Like it's a problem with us. Like she just said, we think differently. We're individuals like every other nationality. We're all individuals. My daughter thinks different than me. I think different than the owner of Source. But it's okay.
Miss Janet.
And I want to say here, I think that in terms of, we were speaking about hope and really that being the catalyst that has carried Black people specifically, but it carries many people through suffering, a hope, a belief. And, I think to the point of there's been conversation about healing. And I heard someone say, I thought it was so good, that we can't be so quick to talk about a healing. A healing does need to take place. But right now, it's almost like we're in surgery right now. And so we can't rush the healing process when we're still in surgery. We're still working this out. We're still in the midst of, we're still on the table with it. You know what I'm saying? And so we can't be so quick to heal. The healing will come, but there's surgery that is taking place. There is legislation that needs to change. After the protests are done, after all of the marches, we got to get in some legislation changes. This is bigger than, and it's important to know this is not just for a moment. I think there's something different about this season and this time. There are white people leading the charges in some of this. There has been white people helping in Civil War with Martin Luther King, or civil rights, with Martin Luther King back then. There were white people that were a part of that movement. There's more now. There's a generation that is rising up, that is trying to make systemic change. And I think that is really where we're going to see the magnitude of this season, is that there are systemic changes that need to happen. And I think we're going for that now.
Well, and I agree. And it's kind of like what you said before about, it's hard to rush into it, but so many people want an immediate response. It's like going on a diet. It takes years and years to put on weight, and it takes that amount of time to lose it if you do it sustainably and over the long haul. And that's like our race relations in our country. It has been, hundreds of years in the making. And so it's not just going to disappear overnight. No. But I do believe that with this recent movement, like you said, Lauren, it's much more significant, it's impactful, it's different. There's a different vibe all around. And I don't care what, affiliate party you're with, what, relative to politics, it's happening all over. And the
pandemic, it's so amazing. The timing of all of this.
Well, I think that's why it's happening. I think because people were stuck home for so long, they didn't have a release for their emotions. And when people's, I always say the same thing, when people's backs are pushed against the wall, that's when their true character comes out, good or bad. And when you saw, what happened to George Floyd, like you said, Tony, get your, leg, get your off my neck,
Yeah, get your knee off my neck.
Your knee off my neck. It's like, that's how, and who knows what caused that officer to, snap. Who knows? I can't get inside his brain, but whatever happened was wrong. And, now that it's brought to the forefront that, Black people have been treated so discriminately for so long, and it's finally coming to the forefront. And had we not had the pandemic, who knows if that police officer would have done, I don't know, maybe that's just innate in him. I don't know. Nobody, we're not privy to his knowledge, what's in his brain. Right. All we know is it was wrong, right?
I think one of the helpful things, it took, to 65 for the 13th Amendment. We weren't free till that actually happened. So just like the emancipation movement, our movement is never ending. History isn't over until we're free.
Fully free, yeah.
But I think though, I think what me and Ms. Janet are trying to do, we want to take our years of wisdom and experience, share it with our daughters, with their ingenuity and technology, to reach more people and change more lives. If you know better, you'll do better. We still believe if you know better, you'll do better. So between our wisdom, me and Miss Janet, and our daughter's youth and ingenuity, I believe we can make a difference. I truly believe that. From the young to the old can work together.
And I don't know else, but I'm 37. And so at 37 years old, I have to be honest, I'm looking now, there's a younger generation than me. I'm 37 and I see there are 20-year-olds out there protesting. There are 19-year-olds out there. I'm like,
it looks like she's 20.
I know. When I look at them, I'm like, oh, look at the babies.
I know.
I do want to say there's a book that we are out at the store now, but we're looking for it back. It's called My Grandmother's Hands. It's a book written by a trauma therapist who talks about how the body contains, really through our DNA, contains the pain and suffering of our ancestors. Everybody, not just Black people, but everybody. But he particularly deals with the racist, white supremacist pain that Black people have suffered. It's in our bodies. So when you talk about the guy with the knee on the neck, that's in his DNA. He's supposed to do that because that's what's in his body.
Mm-hmm. The police officer.
You know why he's acting that way. He went to a direct relationship of white people to Black people, and it came from the slave catching days prior to the Civil War, and even after that, that there were patrols, slave patrols that were sent out to catch Black people and bring them back. Hopefully not dead or maimed, but they were to bring them back in servitude because they were property. So all of this is residing in the bodies of all the people. It's not just Black people. It's residing in the body of white people. I like to talk intergenerationally. Because just because I have white hair and I'm an old person, it doesn't mean that I'm through and finished. This is intergenerational.
So, Miss Janet, what would you say with, when cops kill white people, because that happens all the time?
Not as much as black people. They take the drunk home. Now, don't get it twisted. The drunk guy in Atlanta at Wendy's, he was drunk. A white one would have been either taken home because they had his car. He moved over there.
Right.
And when we look at the psychology of drunkenness, most times people are back at their animal nature. If you threaten them, they're going to go to their animal nature and do what? Fight or flight.
Right.
What did he do? He fought and he fled.
Because I think to Miss
You can understand this. It's not mysterious.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's not mysterious, right? And I love that. Just to add to her point, what we have to realize is a lot of Black people are not even making it to the courtroom. We're dying.
Right.
The guy in Atlanta, yes, he was drunk, but did you all see that video? How he was talking to the officer saying, I can just walk home. Somebody can, for 30 minutes, they had a conversation. And yes, to Janet's point, when he got handcuffed, he was like, no, let me, he was fighting. And that, of course, at that point is resisting arrest, but he didn't have to get shot in his back
2 times.
We're not making it to the courtroom. We are getting killed before we get to court. To justice. We're not even getting we're not getting to a day of judgment, of justice. This is, we're not making it there. If there was a white person, they would get arrested. They would have their day in court. We're not getting to court.
They might not get arrested. They might
not even get arrested.
Let me tell you, Miss Janet is telling you a story that happened right here in the metropolitan area. A politician was stopped in Oakland County drunk. They stopped him. The police officer said, oh, it's you. Got in the car, drove him home. No ticket, no citation. We can't make it home. We die on those relationships. The same situation. A Caucasian in Oakland County was taken home for his safety. No citation.
So last week I had Sheriff Chris Swanson on, and I asked him some very pointed questions as well. And he believes that, there can be reform with proper training and education and getting the bad seeds out. Sure. Do you believe that?
Well, yeah.
All right.
It's really a mixed situation because there's a little bad seed in everybody.
You're awesome, Miss Janet. You are so wise. You are brilliant. Before we get further away, Miss Janet, can you tell our viewers where we can find you?
Here I am.
There not tell it. Right. My laughter. Okay, we're on Cass and Canfield, a block from Woodward, and online at sourcebooksellersonline.com.
Everybody, Source Books Sellers, books plural, sellers.com.
Online.
Source. We'll put that on our website. Sourcebooksellersonline.com. And you even have an audio version of certain books. I know you were telling me that yesterday.
We partner with Libro FM, and you can connect to your independent bookstore to listen to audiobooks.
And I know that with this pandemic, it's been a little challenging, but we're going to get our viewers there. We're going to get your support. You have a beautiful store that's been around for way too long to be anywhere but Detroit, and we need it to continue to prosper. Absolutely. And we need to educate everybody.
I'm ready for some new clothes. Come over.
Tony and Lauren, tell us where we can find you in your business.
Yeah, we're at downtown Detroit at 127 Monroe and online at hotsamsdetroit.com. We just launched our online bookstore during COVID. Or I'm not online bookstore. I'm combining businesses now. We just launched our online store during COVID. Yeah. So.
Can you do pickup in store?
And you can do pickup. We're open now. Yeah, we've been open for 2 weeks now. And honestly, business has been amazing. I think people missed us. So it's just a blessing. It's a blessing.
Yeah. We are extremely grateful to people who've been so supportive of us during this time period by way of the internet. And now we have people sniffing around the door trying to get in.
I'm going to be over there.
Miss Janet and Allison, I'm going to give you, a few minutes to talk about whatever it is that you didn't get to say, and then I'll go to Tony and Lauren. But first, if there's something that you feel that needs to be said, and if you feel that what we're doing right now is helping with the process of, having blacks and whites come more together and more fair treatment, being seen as equal, what can the two of you speak to this topic for the last, few minutes that we have?
Okay, just a few minutes. We have this book by Kenyatta Yamada Taylor, From Black Lives Matter to Black Liberation. And so we hope that anytime you feel like you don't understand something, or it's too confusing, or you don't understand why people are in the streets, that it's important to read and to make sure that you have some background, not only in history, but in some good context.
And because we're booksellers, of course, we have many books about the history and culture of Black people. But we also have books that are about women, not only Black women, but women who have stood up for their rights. This is the 100th year of the women's women's suffrage to vote.
Yep.
And we have that. And we have books that feed our spirit, not necessarily religious, but books on spirituality and motivation and things like that will help you to have a sense of self. Because in the end, we may have a particular covering, but we certainly have an inside. I heard Walter Mosley speaking yesterday, who is a wonderful writer. He said he doesn't see himself as a religious person anyway. He said, but I have a soul. And I work with my soul all the time. So I thought that was really good coming from him, because we're more than what you see. We're always more than what you see. And we are always, as Michelle Obama has said, we are ever becoming. We're always becoming more than what we ever thought we could be.
I love it.
Thanks so much.
That's wonderful. And Tony and Lauren, I'd love to ask you the same question. What would both of you like to say to our viewers to help move this movement along, to educate, to provide knowledge, to empower us, you, the Black community? What would you like to say today?
I would say that, Sabrina, what you're doing here is necessary. A lot of people are asking, and particularly white people, and we're saying allies now. You hear that word going around now, allies. We do need allies. The fact of the matter is white people are the majority. And so we do need you to get this. We need you not to turn a blind eye. We need you to speak to this, to address it, to educate yourselves, and then do the same within your community. I think it's time that that white people specifically start talking amongst themselves, educating themselves, bringing themselves to an awareness so that you all can help us. And so to the Black Lives Matter point, it's almost like if there was a house on a street that is on fire. We're not saying that all houses don't matter, but this house is on fire. Let's all help this house. Let's take this fire out. Let's put this fire out. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the house.
That's a great analogy, a great metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah, the Black lives are the ones that are on fire right now. We love you. Your life has mattered. It's been proven. It's been shown. We need your help in putting out our fire so that everybody knows that our lives matter. And so it's just so important that you find your position. Not everybody is a protester, but what you've done right here with this is you found your way of bringing attention to this very necessary conversation. And I think it starts with conversation. We need to have more conversations, no matter how uncomfortable it is. It is time that we get uncomfortable. And so that is what we do here at Hot Sam's, if I can be honest. We're more than a store. We go beyond the store doors. We are in the community. We are a community hub. We have conversations in the store. We are now probably going to be recording them, but this is something anybody could walk through these doors and we get into the conversation. We talk about what's happening in our community. We talk about what's happening in the world. And that is what makes Hot Sam still here for 99 years. It's because we're more than a store. And so I would just tell you, Sabrina, continue to do what you're doing. This is magnificent. We're happy to support you in any way. This is needed. Okay. So don't stop. You found your lane and just stay in it. And don't be for the, a lot of people are going to be here for the trend. And so when this dies down, it's not going to die down until we are fully free, to Sabrina's point. Okay. And so we have to continue this until we see the systemic change that really is needed to make the changes, the sustaining changes that are needed.
Well, and I think, Lauren, and I know I'd like to hear from Tony as well, but I think so often the radical extremists or extremists, overshadow the goodness and what the movement really needs to be. And I know there's a lot of talk now about Antifa and what's been going on there. How do you feel about that?
I'll let him speak to that.
Well, first, I'd like to tell you this. There are so many false stories out there.
Mm-hmm.
So many false stories. I strongly believe if you know better, you'll do better. We must remember this too. There's only one race, the human race. We must all get along together.
Yes.
Now, when we say Black Lives Matter, it does not mean everybody else's life doesn't. But it does, it damn sure means our life matter, because it doesn't seem the larger population seem to think it's matter. And they demonize us as monsters, villains, and we're the most compassionate. Check our history. Tell the truth. Check our history. We're the most compassionate people ever walk this planet. The most resilient people ever walked.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting emotional. But
no,
so
I think that's okay.
This is our Blackness. And that's what Juneteenth is about, is celebrating our Blackness. We are human, so that means we are emotional. We have emotions, and we should be heard for our emotions. We should be dealt with for our emotions and our compassion. Now I'm going to get teary-eyed. But it's sad that we're still here. I mean, to be honest, it really is sad that we're still here, but there is hope. There is hope. I believe in hope. There is a certain promise that I stand on, that we will see. Okay, now I'm getting tearing up. Okay.
I'm getting chilled. And I think it's amazing in that it comes with these open communications on both sides, not being afraid to talk, or if someone has a question, not being afraid to pose it. But having that compassion and understanding and reasonableness, and not being afraid to talk, just how we're having an open dialogue right now. That's the only way change can happen. The only way is to try to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, if only for a minute, right? If only for a minute, that just sparks the change. And then hopefully one ripple then becomes a tidal wave of change, right?
Yeah.
Little by little. And here we are. I'm just trying to offer this level to try to effectuate that tidal wave.
But just think about that. If you've been have been demonized your entire life, think about it. But yet you're compassionate people. Imagine how you might feel.
I know, Tony.
They are there to help you, not harm you. For you, they help you. For us, we got to get defensive. This must change, and it will change with dialogue like this.
May I just add one more little piece? You said radical. I think we need to understand what that word means. It means going to the root. And that the people who we say are radical, we may need to listen to what they're saying. It may not be pretty. It may not be what we want to hear. But we need to get radical. We need to go to the root of situations, to the root of housing discrimination, to the root of all this, because the Chinese in New York are stepping out now, saying that they have been talked about terribly during this pandemic, accusing these people who've had businesses and homes and families and residents in New York Chinatown, and now they're being talked about just because of what we know who said what about the Chinese
Right.
pandemic. So we need to get to the root. So radical is not an ugly word. It's a word that we need to embrace and understand.
That's a great point. And I want to thank you all for being with us today on the Challenge to Change. It's our way of trying to effectuate change. Viewers, please, let's challenge ourselves. Let's dig deep and let's do the best. Let's think good thoughts, speak good words, and do good deeds. And be kind, and we will effectuate change. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Day.
You're still in the bookstore. Thank you, Sabrina.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for being here with us today. And let's definitely try to change and be the change so we can see change. Have a good day.